Okay, what I'm going to tell you today may seem really insane, but it's all true. And the reason I'm going to share these horror stories with you is so that hopefully you won't do the same thing. Now, you might think, well, nobody's that stupid. But when you hear what I'm about to tell you, you're going to realize some guys, when they've got a pretty girl in front of them, a pretty Filipina, who's giving them physically everything they want, it's like their brain just falls out of their head and they go stupid. And they're afraid to tell this girl no. So I'll tell you right now, there's two things you can do to avoid making the same mistakes that these guys made. One is be ready to tell these girls no. Telling them no to their requests will save you a ton of money. The second thing is time. Take your time with these women. Take your time. Time is your friend. Do not make commitments quickly. Make them slowly. Like a year later, when she starts talking about marriage or borrowing money or investing in a business, tell her, well, that sounds interesting. I'll consider it, maybe next year. And then she may freak out, but if she leaves, there's plenty of other Filipinas, believe me. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to say, sounds interesting, but not a good idea for now. I'll think about it in a year. And then they're going to try and sell you on it. Oh, no, once in a lifetime opportunity, great price, got to buy this property. That's when you know it's time. Either she learns how to change the subject or you go find another Filipina. So here we'll start with guy number one. And I'll leave their names out of this to bear the embarrassment. The first guy, he contacted and met online a Filipina over in Bohol, and the usual, build up a rapport online for like 6 months, and then he planned to come out to visit her in the Philippines. Now, he had plenty of money, okay? He had plenty of money, so that was not so much an issue to him, but it really should have been. I don't care how much money you got to pay attention to where your money goes. So what does this guy do? He meets a Filipina, and then builds up this rapport with her online. He's convinced he's in love with her. And she is telling him that, again, it's just so incredible. She's telling him that she loves him, never met him before, but she loves him, and that she's currently living with a Korean man, this is a Filipina, living with a Korean man she claims is not her husband, and they have a kid together, but she says, oh, he's mean to me, I wish somebody would save me, blah, blah, blah. So this guy, giving in to his male need to fix a problem, he tells her, oh, I'll rescue you, I'll save you, I'll send you some money so you can leave him. So he sends some money, and does she leave him? No. So he flies out to the Philippines to get to know her, and she says, oh, well, comes up with some cockamamie story. We need to go to Malaysia so that we can be sure that we're going to be alone. So he buys into it, meets her in Cebu, and then off they go to Malaysia. But at the last minute, she says, oh, but my two very best female friends want to come along, and I really would feel much better if they came along. And again, like an idiot, he didn't know how to say no, so he's like, okay. So he goes ahead and he buys tickets, airline tickets, for all three of these girls, meets them in Cebu, I believe it was, and then from there they went to Malaysia. And then she says, oh, well, me and my girlfriends, we're going to hang out, we're going to be up late, yakking and whatever, so we want our own room, and you sleep in the other room. Again, this guy doesn't say no. He gets them their own room. So he flies three girls for a week into Malaysia, picks up the tab for the flights, the hotels, the food, everything. He's spending a lot of money, and by the end of the week, he never even gets in bed with this woman. She's spending all her time on vacation with her friends. It gets worse. She goes back to her Korean guy, and for 3 years, he still hasn't even slept with this woman. He sends her money over and over and over again, and what he told me was that, to his best estimation, at the end of 3 years, he had sent her over 120,000 US dollars. She had enough money from him to buy 2 or 3 homes and an empty piece of property in a nice subdivision. And guess what? She still hasn't left the Korean guy that supposedly is so mean to her. And every time he asks her about it, she says, well, my kid is in school, and I don't want to take them out of school midstream. Let's wait till the summer. And then it's one excuse after another, after another. And even after the guy spent several hours detailing me the entire story, when we ended and finished our dinner and walked outside, I said, so now, what are you going to do with the 1 week you have left in the Philippines? He said, well, I'm going to go to where she's at on Bohol, get a room, and maybe, if she can get time, maybe she'll visit me, okay? He just doesn't get it. I'm hoping that by now he's given up on this woman, and I would like to think that he's now got someone else. But he went that far. 3 years, never got laid, and he put out $120,000 US. You would think nobody would ever do that, but this guy did. The only saving grace is that he's got a ton of money, and he's able to kind of shrug it off. Still, that's not the point. The point is, you don't deal with Filipinas that way. You don't let them dictate the itinerary. You decide what you want to do, and then you ask them, I'm going to go do such and such. Do you want to come along, me and you? When she starts saying, oh, no, I'd rather go to Malaysia and take my 3 friends, you say, oh, okay, well, that's not what I plan on doing, so why don't you do that with some other expat? I'm going to find me a girl that wants to do what I want to do. That's how you handle that conversation. Are you going to lose that girl? Maybe. 50% chance. Because when you call her bluff, she just might say, okay. I'm not going to give up on a trip just trying to drag in my other friends. She may cave in. You're back in control. Or she might say, okay, forget it. Fine. How hard is it to find another Filipina in the Philippines? Not hard at all. Okay, so that's guy number 1. This guy I ran into over at the boardwalk here in Dumaguete, and he recognized me from the videos and wanted to talk. And I could tell he was pretty wiped out emotionally. And what had happened with him happens to a lot of guys, although not as bad. His case was pretty bad. But it all started with him getting on a dating site, which I have said repeatedly, if you're going to come to the Philippines, don't use a dating site until you get here and you can meet them the same day. There's no point in talking to a Filipina 6 months or a year prior to your visit. You're going to end up locked down to that one girl. She's not going to want you to talk to anybody else. So he made that first mistake. He started 6 months in advance talking to a girl, Filipina, online. He Skyped with her, fell in love with her, he thinks. I mean, again, I don't believe in that. I mean, you fall in love with somebody when you've spent physical time with them for a year. You can have emotions and you can have bonding, talking to someone online, but you don't actually know that person because you talk to each other for 3-4 hours, maybe 5 hours max, and then you log off. And you don't know what they're doing after they log off. She could be cooking dinner for her husband for all you know. So he goes ahead and talks to this girl for 6 months, thinks he knows her, thinks he loves her. He's got $30,000 to his name to come to the Philippines with, and aside from his retirement. And so at some point, he says, okay, sweetie, I'm going to move to the Philippines, and we're going to get married, and I'm going to buy a house, and we're going to be happy. And he's never met this woman in person. So now she says to him, well, you know, if we buy a house or have a house built, they're going to charge you a lot because you're a foreigner. If I deal with them, then we'll get the house built for less. So she says, why don't you send me half of the money? Send me $15,000 US, and by the time you get here, I'll have the property picked out and paid for. I'll have the foundation going. You know, we can build a house and we'll be happy ever after. So he says, okay. And he sends the $15,000 US to this Filipina he's never met, that he's only talked to and fallen in love with online. So then he gets to Cebu, and she says, well, I'll meet you at the airport. And she does. She's there. And it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes when he realizes she's a ladyboy. She's a guy who has taken hormones and put on a dress and whatever. She's a ladyboy. And he never figured it out in the video. He never expected it, I guess, or she was very passable, or he didn't know what to look for. But all of a sudden, it's a whole game changer. And he says, well, wait a minute. You're a ladyboy. We can't get married. I mean, this isn't what I signed up for. And she says, but I'm still the same person, and you love me, you told me you loved me for 6 months, and you must still love me, and blah, blah, blah. And we can't get married legally, but we can live together, or we can get married in Germany. She's got this whole thing figured out. And he's like, no, that's not what I signed up for. So just give me my $15,000 back, and, let's just call it a day. And she's like, oh, okay, I need a little time. Well, he goes to his hotel, she goes home, she blocks him on everything, blocks his email, blocks his Facebook, blocks his text, blocks every way that he can contact her. She disappears. He's got no way of finding her, doesn't know nothing about her, doesn't really know anything about her, doesn't even know where she lives, doesn't know where he can find her. So his $15,000 is gone. Half of what he came to the Philippines with is gone. So he left Cebu, caught a flight to Dumaguete, and that's when I ran into him. I could tell you more stories like this. I've talked to a lot of expats, and it boils down to what I started off saying. If you want to avoid these kind of problems, and you lose your head, and you just see this pretty girl, and you're not thinking straight, there's only 2 things you got to do. Number 1, learn how to say no. It's just that simple. When they come up with these weird requests for money, they want you to buy a house, they want you to buy a property, they want you to invest in their brother-in-law's business, they want you to buy them a tricycle so he can earn money. Remind yourself, at best, she's a good friend. She's not even a real girlfriend yet. This is the kind of money that you give a woman when you've been married to her for 2 or 3 years, not a woman that you've been Skyping with for 6 months. The answer is no. And you can even tell her, this is the kind of money I would give to my wife after 2 or 3 years of marriage. This is not the kind of money I'd give to a woman I've only known for 3-4 months, online or in person. You gotta learn to say no. And again, if you're willing to accept the fact that she's gonna walk, you'll have the courage to do it. You gotta realize you can replace her very easily. So you gotta just tell her, no, I'm not gonna send $15,000. No, I'm not going to send you money for 3 years. No, I'm not going to do any of this. I am not going to give you any money. If that's not okay with you, find another foreigner. We're done. And they will cave in or they will walk. But either way, you're better off than handing them a bunch of money that you're never going to see again. And the second thing, time is your friend. Time is your friend. Take your time. The day you meet this woman in person, I don't care if you've been Skyping with her for 3 years. The day you meet her in person, that's the first day of your relationship. That's the first day. When she's standing 2 feet in front of you and you can actually hold her, touch her, when you can spend 24 hours with her straight and see what her moods are like, she can't log off, that's the first day of your relationship. And get to know her for 6 months to a year before you even think about making a commitment of any kind. Don't make any babies. Don't get married. Don't even get engaged. Let her know, I'm not going to talk about marriage for the first year. Don't expect me to get engaged our first year together. If you can't handle that, find another expat. So you've got to take control of the situation. You've got to learn how to say no. You've got to learn how to take it slow. Okay? If you do that, you'll be fine. You won't be making these kind of mistakes. What spurred me to do this video is that I got yet another guy telling me a horrible story, how he trusted the wrong Filipina, only knew her for 2.5 months, bought some orchards for her, bought her land, bought her all this stuff. They had a baby together, and then she ran off with the baby and ran off with the money. Now she's living in the house with her Filipino boyfriend. And he asked me, well, what's my legal recourse? Can I get visitation? Can I get custody with my daughter? He's in Australia. She's in the Philippines. Unless he moves to the Philippines, and even then, good luck. Good luck. He can get a judgment saying he's got a right to visitation and custody. It's going to be an uphill battle making that happen. And as far as the money, it's all in her name. All the properties are in her name. Has to be. That's Philippine law. So the properties are hers. He's never getting a dime of that money back. So take it slow. Learn to say no.